There's been a bit of chatter online about the re-emergence of the Renaissance, which makes a lot of sense when you look at, well, the state of the world. So, should we kick off the creative revolution? Hi, my name is Kairos, and I've decided to sacrifice my soul to the algorithm instead of the corporate world. I took the advice of those wiser than me and chose a real career instead of anything creative and fun. Now, fueled with regret, I'm forcing creativity back into my life. I'd imagine when YouTube was first created, it was with the purpose of sharing experiences, creations, and knowledge. Another form of artistic expression, combining the gallery of a Renaissance inventor with a great library. Before it became a meat grinder of AI slop that turned your attention into the most valuable commodity in existence, it was a place to share the funny and show off the creative, or just share what you enjoyed with an infinite community. Look at old school Smosh and Markiplier, for example, the sort of creators most of you would remember from, well, simpler times. As someone who tried really hard to avoid reality for far too long through my own personal brand of copium while I got churned through the corporate machine, I escaped to an extremely convoluted fantasy world built up with projections of me and my friends' online personalities and the adventures we had rammed together into a semi-congruent timeline. I've come to the conclusion that dying without sharing the fact that this story existed scares me more than death itself. Even if that just means that a few people close to me get to experience it beyond a few half-drunken rambles about a elemental arcane circle-based magic system. Think about it. Even Da Vinci, a man who is known all throughout history for his art and creations, is quoted to repent on his deathbed. Quote, "He had offended against God and man by failing to practice his art as he should have done." According to Wikipedia, but my guy, all this man did was create, and he died feeling like he could have and should have done more. If that does not scream at you to at least try pursue something that you find meaningful before you die full of regret, wake up. That escalated quickly. My point is, creating and building is something we are born to do. I wanted to try and rebuild a period of real creation, not for corporate greed or to build a god inside of a computer model, but to share the human experience and encourage people to create and share authentically. Not for views and clicks, but just because you think it's cool. With that, welcome to Avoria. This little passion project is the first drop of opium in my system that slowly consumed most of my creative outlets and drove me to insanity enough to start a YouTube channel to make myself accountable, to force the time and dedication that it deserves. Now, I'll be honest, this is kind of the first time I've tried to articulate the world as a whole, so here we go. Avoria, in essence, is a generic fantasy world, heavily inspired from the Forgotten Realms, combining arcane-style innovation with a bit of Treasure Planet steampunk and Lord of the Rings, like every fantasy world ever. It's primarily a fantasy steampunk type setting, focusing on a golden age of industrialization through science and arcane combination. My work in progress magic system is elemental based, using glyphs and runes, combining into magic circles for casting. different races and regions have a specific aptitude for certain elements of magic, such as the mountain dwarves having a specialization in rocks and ores, whereas wood elves would have proficiency manipulating plant life. Both technically earth elements, but they're expressed differently. And not everyone is gifted with the arcane, however. It is essentially a lottery of being born with inherent mana reserves, typically realized in late childhood, with no known way to expand these reserves later in life. With only select members of the population able to utilize mana, you can imagine what powerful people spend their time trying to achieve. And an important part of any fantasy world is, of course, the pantheon, the gods and deities. I've always been obsessed with the angels versus demons trope. And not just that, but ancient pagan gods was the whole reason I chose ancient history back in high school. Only to study a volcano and how Athens screwed up its war with Sparta. Essentially, I'm working on a way to combine pagan gods from Greek and Norse mythos with the likes of Egyptian and Asian deities. Now, this does come with some roadblocks, like the fact that I've never studied any religion, ever. But I bought some books, and surely I might eventually find some fun crossovers between ancient mythos and the Bible. Now, with a work-in-progress magic system that inherently creates power imbalances in society, and with enough blending of different religions to be branded a blasphemous heretic globally, how do we add some stakes into the world? That's right, kids. Demons versus angels. The underworld, hell, launches an invasion on the heavens, causing a 100-year calamity on the material plane as divine powers clash in an all-out proxy war and conquest. Oh, so like in Supernatural? Huh? Well, you know, the whole every god is real and the demons create the apocalypse and there is an all-out war on Earth. What? No, Really? Yep. After I'd spent a very long time coming up with my cool and original idea, one of the first times I explained it to someone else, they pointed at a very popular piece of media. And sure enough, I binge-watched Supernatural, and spoiler alert, I had pretty much reflavored everything they did back in the early 2000s. Even my draft of Purgatory was pretty damned close. This created a downward spiral where I started to notice my ideas in a range of different media. Oh, so the calamity that changes the world, like in Final Fantasy XIV? That sounds like Mistborn magic. You stole that from Star Wars. The more I spoke about it, and the more media I consumed, the more I realized I was unknowingly drawing inspiration from sources I'd never even seen. And even recently released media hits like Has Been Hotel was checking boxes off my original idea list like a bloody bingo card. Then I was told to watch that amazing digital circus and hey, look, they use the art mannequins. This actually caused me to stop world building for a while. I got very close to just quitting, never even bothering to start creating content. After all, why bother if I was going to be accused of copying people and not having any originality? I'd be a fraud by accident. There is no such thing as a new idea. It is impossible. We simply take a lot of old ideas and put them into a sort of mental kaleidoscope. We give them a turn and they make new and curious combinations. We keep on turning and making new combinations indefinitely, but they are all the same old pieces of colored glass that have been used through all the ages. So, even if my idea is similar to those that came before me, that doesn't mean it still can't be good? Absolutely. And that's where it dawned on me. Almost every fantasy ever draws from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings anyway. Sanderson's Mistborn was inspired from bloody Jedi using the Force, and they're just telekinetic space ninjas. There are already countless books, movies, TV series and anime that manipulate and reflavor existing material, especially religious mythos and legends, many doing better than the original source material. Everyone really is just standing on the shoulders of giants. If anything, that's what likely makes each setting unique and why it's so important to pursue. Because no one else, and especially not some robot, will be able to retell the same story in your own unique way. And just be open about what inspires you. Don't try and create some convoluted cover-up to explain something. If your magic system is summoned the same way as in Doctor Strange, then own it. More than likely, others will make that connection and find it a cool adaptation, not scold you for being unoriginal. I've been running a 2-year-long Dungeons & Dragons campaign in Avoria, taking place 5 years after this 100-year calamity. While it certainly has some areas to iron out, and I'm still building like the timeline and pantheon and magic systems, the high dark fantasy setting in a world recovering from calamity is enough to carry its own story. And not many first-time DMs with a collection of first-time D&D players can say they've had a campaign run for over 2 years with a few hundred hours of recorded playtime. And still be only level 4, but more on that another time. So yes, Avoria is far from perfect and has so many similarities with other popular media. But if I slam it all together in the right way and focus on the characters that live through the world, the end result will be different enough that I can call it my own. I plan to release lore dumps and progress updates as I build this world up around my player characters, while writing about the events before and during the calamity. You can also expect me showing off games that I enjoy, or just highlighting other creator stuff. Because that is what social media, YouTube, and whatever should be for. Not to hunt for views and capitalize on others' attention, but to share cool stuff and tell stories, like cosplay journeys or game development, and maybe inspire the next Da Vinci. Because, bloody hell, my feed is either depressing or full of brain rot, and I need it changed. So show me what you've got.